and I am excited to introduce you to your instructor this afternoon, Adrienne. She is a member of the Tombow design team, and she is going to be teaching you guys all about how to use Tombow products for your bullet journal. If you have never used a bullet journal before, she's going to be able to get you up and running. She's going to show you lots of inspiration and work through an August spread. So make sure you have your journal and supplies ready to go. We have turned off chat for this class due to its size. So if you have any questions as you go through, then you can send a chat to me. I'm listed there as Tombow Ask Me Questions. So any questions you have, send them my way. I will answer them, or I'll find a place to stop Adrienne and she can answer them for you guys. So I'm gonna kick it over to Adrienne now.
Thanks, Brittany.
Everyone.
I'm so excited to be with you and talk a little bit about bullet journaling and share some of my tips and tricks on how to get started and just some fun spreads that you can create. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that I always tell people to ask themselves is, what do you want out of your bullet journal? I'm sure many of you have seen all sorts of different kinds of spreads, either on Pinterest or Instagram, of ranging from really simple designs to very elaborate designs and spreads. And so what do you want out of your bullet journal? Are you going to be more planner focused? And how do you want to break it down? Do you want to do like a monthly spread? Do you want to break it down by week or even by day? The cool thing about doing a bullet journal is that it really does turn into an actual journal. So I was going through all my previous bullet journals this morning and kind of just reminiscing about everything I've done in the past months and years. And, oh yeah, that's when we moved houses, or that's when we had a baby, or, you know, just different lists that you find or different calendars that you make. It can really turn itself into an actual journal that you can go back and kind of relive. And then what kind of things do you want to incorporate in your bullet journal? So are you into art? So are you going to include like painting or sketching? Do you like lettering? Or are you more after like the organizational aspect, and you can use simple things like stamps or washi tape or like pre-made spreads to keep yourself organized? So those are some things to kind of think about before you start a bullet journal. The next thing to think about that I tell people is get really good supplies. So my favorite bullet journal to use is my Archer and Olive journals. I have a lot, as you can see in the corner right here. And the reason why I love Archer and Olive journals is because the pages are bright white. So a lot of journals that you see will have like the cream pages or the off-white pages. And I just found that kind of just messed up with my colors that I was using with my markers or whatever. And so I was really after that bright white page. And the other thing I really love about it is the pages are really thick. And so when you go through and you're creating your spreads, there won't be any ghosting on the next page, meaning you won't see markers kind of bleeding through onto the next page, which is really nice. So for example, I made this April page, and all the black, I used an ink marker. But if I flip the page on the other side is still bright white, and you're not gonna see that black ink on the other side. So that's another reason why I really like these notebooks. There's also little things like there's pockets in the back, there's like little tassels. Anyway, it's just really convenient. So find a journal that works for you. If you like the cream pages, that's totally fine. Anyway, so find journals that you like to use and that will work with your goals and having a bullet journal. Okay, the other thing is your tools that you're going to use. So Mono drawing pens by Tombow are great. They just added to their line, and there's 6 now, I believe, of the mono drawing pens. You're gonna want, if you like straight lines, then rulers are going to be a must for you. I just went and got like a little kit, I think just from Target, and it comes in a little kit, and it gives you all these rulers. It gives you a compass to make circles with. So just find like a little kit that you can get a variety of rulers with, so you can get all those straight lines that you want. Another great tool is this right here. This is the Helix 360-degree angle and circle maker. And I just got this off Amazon. I think it's like $5. It's really cheap, but it's great for making circles. So normally before I got this, I'd be like, I need to find something circular that I can trace around, and it's got to be the right size circle, and it can't be too big or too small. So this is really great because you can make different size circles. And I use this all the time. I'll use this today actually to show you how to make a spread. You have things like washi tape that you can use to like help embellish things, scissors, pencils, and then I love using the Tombow TwinTone rainbow set. And this is really great for like color coding all of your activities. So each kid, I have 4 boys. Each boy has their own color, so I know whose activity belongs to what, and it's very helpful. I also like to make like geometric spreads, rainbow spreads with these. I'll show you an example in a little bit. And then you have erasers and tape, and then just your correction tape if you make mistakes. So those are just some intro supplies that I like to use. Yeah, so don't feel like when you start out you have to have all those supplies, because you certainly don't. If you only have 1 pen and a pencil and an eraser, that's totally fine. You can make awesome spreads just with that. So start small. You can even use things like stamps or stickers if you don't feel comfortable drawing and you just want to make like quick, easy spreads and stuff like that. So if you are new to bullet journaling, I would recommend to keep it simple. So start with spreads that are simple and maybe only do black and white. And then later, when you get a little bit more comfortable, you can start to add color in there and make it a little bit more complex. But the last thing that you want to do is overwhelm yourself with making these elaborate pages. And then if you do mess up on accident, then it's just like, oh, I just wasted all that time. So start simple and use simple spreads. And another thing that I tell people is just have fun with it. This is a way to express yourself creatively while keeping your life organized. And this is a fun way to do that. Make it work for you. So some bullet spreads that work for some people, I don't necessarily need in my life. And so I'm not going to include it in my pages, because if I'm not going to use it, then what's the point of including it? So I typically, when I make pages or spreads, I don't really break it down by week. I just normally do like monthly spreads, and that's all I need. I don't break it down by day because I don't look at this every day. I just kind of use it as a monthly overview. And so do what works for you. If you're more of a planner and you use your planner every single day, that's totally awesome. And you can break it down even more into those daily pages. So yeah, last tip that I always tell people is to use pencil. Always use pencil first, because when you are creating your spreads, there's a lot of counting and math involved. And because bullet journaling has those little bullets, it's easy to count and create those boxes, but you have to count. And so there's so many times where I just rework a page over and over again, trying to find the right layout that I want, or maybe something you start at the top and by the time you get to the bottom, it doesn't fit anymore. And so you have to just kind of rework it. So always use pencil first, and you can go back in and erase it later. Okay, so I want to show you real quick a few spreads that I've done just as examples. So when you start out, I just made this kind of when I was starting out, just different ideas of what different embellishments and different ideas for how to create my bullet journal pages. So when I'm making calendar boxes, I just made a list really quick of 6 different ideas of how I can create those calendar boxes. And I kind of use this as an index. So whenever I'm creating stuff, I come back and I'm like, okay, what do I want to use? Maybe it's this one this month, or maybe I want to come into like the calendar box this time. And obviously this will change as your style changes. And so you can keep adding pages like this just to kind of collect your ideas. And then for borders, it's the same thing. You just kind of jotting down ideas. Titles, there's tons of different ways to make your titles, whether it's using banners or arrows or kind of adding like a floral element in there. You can also black it out and do kind of a reverse, like what I did with my April spread. And then different kind of bullet points. So just kind of make a general idea of what different elements that you can use for your bullet journal spreads. Okay, so as far as tips for different spreads that you can use, that you can create, I'll kind of go through and show you some examples of what I've done. This is where it gets into the journaling aspect, is I've made travel pages. When I went to Florence, Italy, I just picked one picture that I liked, and then I just kind of wrote out everywhere we went and just decorated. These are all stamps, and then I just used markers and lines. So this is a very simple page. It didn't take me long at all to create this, and it was a lot of fun. Here's just a swatch page I made of all the Tombow Eragotin color pencils. And it really helps if you have different, a lot of different pens or markers or color pencils, just to see it all swatched out. Like yesterday I needed to use some color pencils, and sometimes on the box, it doesn't quite match up. And so I'm like, hey, what colors do I want to use? And then I came in and I was able to find it right away. So I just drew all these little flowers and then colored them in with the colored pencils, and that was my swatch page. Okay, so going through this one, you can make things like packing lists or any sort of lists. I made this right before I had my 4th baby. So it's kind of just fun to go back and like, oh yeah, I made this when I was preparing to have a baby and go to the hospital. This is our packing list that I used. Different bullet journal pages. I mostly used the mono drawing pens for this, did a little design and then colored it in with colored pencils. Yeah. If you like to read, you can make like a little bookshelf and kind of write down all the books that you've read or want to read, and then as you read them, you can color them in. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, this was a good one. So I had carpal tunnel the last few years, and one way that I was able to track it is I just made a carpal tunnel tracker for the month, and I just traced my hand and then broke it down into 30 different days for the month. And then I was able to track each day how I was feeling, how my hands were feeling, what my pain level was. So yeah, it's nice to do, like if you want to do like a fitness tracker or a habit tracker. It's a great way to track just things that are going on in your life in a kind of a creative way, right? Like I could totally just have done a log like that and just kind of written down things, but it's kind of fun to just add that art aspect into it. Let's see, what else do I have? Another monthly. I had also, oh, right here. So another fun thing you can do is you can do something that's called a Dutch door. So a Dutch door is where you're gonna cut your page out so you can create kind of like a little mini page in your bullet journal. So instead of having to do tons of different borders or outlines to your page, you can just cut out what you want and you can create your weekly spread just like that. So yeah, here's an example of a geometric pattern that I like to make. I just use one of these little rulers and then the Tombow TwinTone rainbow palette, and it's fun. I do love art. I also love math too, and so figuring out numbers and patterns and geometric shapes is really fun for me. So I also enjoy that. Okay, any questions so far or comments or something else that really comes in handy, similar to the Dutch door where you're cutting out your pages, I like to cut out little tabs in my pages, and so then I can keep everything kind of organized. And it's really easy because, let's see, this notebook is a little bit wider, so I have a little bit more room to play with on this side. So I just cut out little tabs. So here's my April, and then just for each day, each page of my month, I just cut a tab that's different. So here's an example of just like an art page. Like I really liked this alphabet that I saw on Pinterest, and so I wanted to recreate it and kind of learn how to make that little alphabet. You can do 1 line a day, so this is more of like a journal entry. You can do meal planning. This is my habit tracker for the month. I did water, fitness, trying to read every night, going to bed on time, and then posting on social media, Instagram. And then so for each month, so for my April month, I kind of made it a theme of black and white in this floral. So everything had that kind of black and white floral theme. And this is kind of as you go on, which will come. You totally don't have to do themed months to start out with. I just keep it simple. For May, I did more of like a rainbow theme with geometric lines. I did a mood tracker with donuts. That was a lot of fun. Here's just the inspirational quote page that I made. So you can kind of just make it yours. Like like I said before, I don't necessarily break things down by days because I don't use it that often, but I do like looking at my whole month. I do like trackers and being able to look back at my month and see what I did, how I was feeling. And then I also like inspirational quote pages and just little art pages like that. For June, it was another black and white floral. For this month, I turned my calendar on the side so it all fit onto one page, and I ended up really liking that. You can jot things down like tasks that you have, goals, and then projects that you want to work on. Here's my mood tracker for the month. And then I did like a summer bucket list. So things that I wanted to do with my family over the summer. And I'm sure like all of you, summer plans look a little bit differently because of COVID. So we focused on doing a lot of things outside in nature and just with our family. So yeah. And then July, I did another black and white, kind of like a mandala theme with some moons and some stars. So today, and I did a little kind of fun art page. And for this one, I just used like some scrapbook paper. This took me like 10 minutes. I tore a piece off, taped it on, drew some leaves, and then lettered in a little quote. So it's fun to kind of experiment with your bullet journal and just try different pages and kind of put everything together that's kind of you and just kind of throws it down on the paper. So I wanted to show you guys an example of how to make a bullet journal kind of cover page and the monthly page. If you have, yeah.
Quick question. There's just 2 quick ones that I think that you can answer.
Okay.
So one person asked, do you have any advice on keeping up with a bullet journal even when you have a super busy, school schedule or personal schedule?
Yeah. So I am very busy with my family, and so that's why I kind of just do pages. I don't have a ton of pages. Like for my June, I have the cover page, I have my calendar and my tasks and goals, and then I had my mood tracker, and then I had my summer bucket list, and that was kind of it. So there's not a lot of daily upkeep that is required for my bullet journal. It's just kind of there to give me ideas, to kind of track things. And so I can look things. So if you are busy with other things, don't do spreads or pages that are going to require daily attention, if that makes sense.
Yep. And then the other question before you move on is about how much time do you typically spend when you're creating your monthly spread?
My monthly spread? It could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes. So this took a lot of time just to like color it in. This one probably took the longest just because I had to color in each individually between the leaves. But it was just something that I wanted to make. I was into doing kind of the coloring in the negative space aspect of art at that time. And so it's fun for me to do that because I enjoy art and I enjoy sketching and drawing and stuff like that. If you don't enjoy it, by all means, like, don't try because you're just really going to get frustrated with one, how much time you're spending on it, and two, if you mess up, then it's just like tragic, you know? So yeah, it's my time to just sit down and create and have a purpose for that creation, right? The purpose is to keep my life organized and to keep track of my life. So yeah, any other questions?
I don't think so. There are a couple, but I think I can
Okay.
I can answer those, or I'll hold on to them for the end.
Okay.
So
another example or another tip that I have is if you prefer watercoloring, water painting, and the pages aren't thick enough, you can always watercolor on a watercolor paper and then cut it out, and then you can paste it into your journal. I've seen a lot of people do that. These pages are thick and they will hold marker really well. And maybe if you use like light watercolor, like if you just wanted to watercolor in like flowers or some leaves, but it in my opinion, it doesn't hold like a whole wash of watercolor. So you can always just do it on a different page and then just paste it in later. So yeah. Okay. So for this, for my August, I haven't started yet. If you have your stuff, you can totally follow along and get some ideas. We have a little bit of time where I can show you guys how to do some stuff and give you some ideas. So for this one, I'm going to be doing sort of a Dutch door in that there will be a cutout involved. And so when you do cutouts, you kind of have to be aware of the page on the other side. And so that's where it gets just a little bit tricky, but it's totally doable. Okay, so I'm going to use my circle. If you have a circular object that you can trace, here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to try and push heavy so you guys can see my lines. But normally when you use pencil, you want to push pretty lightly. It's only supposed to be a guide, and then you guide for your ink, and that you'll later erase those pencil marks when you're done. So I found the middle of my page, something I like to do, where's the center of my page, and it's right there. You can do that just by counting down your squares. So I believe it's like 19 squares up, or 19 dots, and then 13 squares in. And there is the middle of my page. So I'm just gonna draw a circle that goes all the way around. Okay, so there's my circle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw like a floral top and a floral bottom. And in the middle is gonna be my title for August. And then I'm gonna cut down this page and then around my circle and then cut down here. So when you do that, obviously it's going to cut the other side of this page, so that when it's closed, I'm going to be drawing in a calendar right here, and then everything else will be blank. Okay, so because I'm cutting this page out, I'm not going to put in a tab on this page. I'm going to put my tab on the second page. Okay, so normally I start out by just like sketching some flowers, some small flowers, and then I'll go in and kind of just ink them up. Sorry, I'm trying to push hard. It goes against everything inside of me to push hard with a pencil. So maybe I'll do like 4 little florals, and then we'll do kind of some leaves that come out. And then I'll do the same thing on the bottom. I'll kind of make it just a little bit symmetrical. What I normally do for bottom pieces is I usually add just one more flower on there to give it kind of a base. So instead of 4, I'll be drawing 5 flowers down here with leaves that come out and kind of meet up in the middle. So I love drawing floral illustrations and wreaths and leaves and all that stuff. So I like to incorporate a lot of that in my bullet journals. Let's see. Okay. So there's that. I'm going to use my 03 pen to just ink everything in. So I've got my flowers next to each other. Try to bring you guys down a little bit closer so you can see. There we go. Okay, and down here I've got those 5 flowers. And I'm not spending too much time on these. They're just kind of rough. I'll go back in and add some details in at the end. Okay. A little trick I like to do is just make your leaves kind of go in different directions. So try drawing them different ways. Try and bring a little bit of variety to your leaves. Okay, so there's my rough sketch of my wreath. I'm going to go in and erase those pencil lines now because I've got that circle well sketched out. There's that center one too. Okay, so there's my rough wreath. So now I'm going to go in, and I've made a line already, but I'll darken it a little bit. So I'm going in right in the center of my page, and I'm going to draw a dark line right here just to show you where it is. And then when I cut my page out, I'm going to cut around all these flowers right here and just leaving like a little bit of space in between each one, a little bit of white space. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the top, cut that down right here, and then leave some space like that. Okay. If you're nervous to cut your page in your bullet journal, just know that that's normal. It's not a typical move. Try to raise it up again. And it can even be a little scary, but Don't worry. Even if you do mess up, you can always just cut out your page. Okay, so there's my top and bottom cut. Now it's gonna take some detail cutting. Hopefully I can get, you know what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna do a rough cut first and then go back in. Okay. Are there any other questions while I'm doing this?
I am actually getting caught up on questions. We have quite a few in this class. So I will encourage everyone, as you are asking questions, please just be patient as go through and answer them and try only to ask them once so that it's easy to see these questions as they're coming in.
So if you wanted to, you could totally just cut a circle on the outside instead of having to go in and go with each individual leaf like I'm doing. Just depends on how much time you want to put into it, you know? Okay, and remember, we're only cutting on this right side, so don't cut on this side. I'm going to add maybe another leaf right here. Okay.
Adrian, what is the name again of the circular ruler that you used? A few people were asking about that.
It is the Helix 360-degree angle and circle maker. And you can just get it off Amazon. If you just type in Helix 360-degree, I'm sure it'll pop up. But yeah, it's a great little tool. It's very cheap, but it's a lifesaver if you like to make circles.
Also, how long have you been bullet journaling for? When did you start?
So when I was looking back at my bullet journal this morning, I think I started back in 2018. So I've been doing it for two and a half years. Yeah. It's kind of fun to just, as I was going through, just to see past spreads and see like, oh yeah, I've gotten better in this, or I've kind of changed my style a little bit there, or I'm using a little bit more color now, or experimenting with shapes and cutouts and washi tape. Okay. So there, it's not perfect. I can go back in and do it later. Okay, so here is my cover page. And kind of erase any extra pencil marks that I have. Okay. So now that I've got my cover page, I can go in with my, this is one of my favorite tools to use. It's the Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen. It's got a brother, the soft tip, and which is black. So this kind of has kind of a navy blue barrel. And this has just an all black barrel, and that's how you can kind of tell the difference right off the bat. The hard tip has a smaller tip, and it's harder. So you're going to get less, let me grab a sheet of paper here, less flexibility with it, but it will keep your lines consistent, and it'll be a little bit easier to use when you make your lettering. So if you use the soft tip brush pen, the tip is a little bit thicker. It's just a little bit harder to maneuver around those curves a little bit. So I always recommend the hard tip for beginners. If you're beginners, I always use this anyway. You can always use this pen for drawing as well, and it'll kind of give you some variation in those lines that are a little bit interesting. That's just a little bit different from just a typical mono drawing pen. So there's my little advertisement for my favorite brush pen. So as I will go in, and I am just going to sketch out really quick August. I'm going to find, sorry, I'm bouncing, kind of my baseline right here. And I always go in with pencil because, trust me, just do it. Sometimes I've done ink first and I, get to here and I'm too far over. So always go in with pencil first. And I find a lot of time with pencil that I'm willing to be a little bit more creative with my lines, with my lettering. I don't know if you guys, can I ask that? If people are, I did in my last class, if people are letterers, hand letterers, or if they just prefer to use like faux calligraphy or stamps even. I don't know if people can comment. Can people comment, Brittany?
They cannot comment publicly, but they can send a private message. Lots of people are saying lettering.
Okay.
Somebody says stencils, lettering and faux calligraphy, hand lettering.
Okay.
Lots of lettering.
Okay. So the two definitely do overlap, lettering and bullet journaling, which is awesome because you kind of get a chance to use that skill in kind of an everyday way. Okay. A-U-G-U-S-T. Spell that right correctly. Okay. So there is my August. I'll go back in and kind of add little details to the leaves and flowers after this. So now what I want to do is I want to show you how to create those, the tab, okay? So when I do my first tab, it's going to be up at the top, and I just use that first line, that first bullet, and I'm just going to create kind of a diagonal line. And then it's 2, 4, 6 dots down, and then I do the opposite thing, the opposite line diagonal, and then it's going to be on that second dot that I cut that tab. So I'm going to cut my tab on. Look what I did, guys. I totally cut my second page. Whoops. Okay, that's totally fine. So when you're doing bullet journaling, you kind of have to just roll with the punches, you know? Mistakes are gonna happen, and that's okay. You just gotta problem solve your way out of it. All right, so I'm just gonna cut that tab out. And then I do try to round my edges like my pages are normally, just so it's a little bit more, you totally don't have to, you can just. Put it straight up. Okay. My tab. I'll go in and write August up here so I know this is where August starts. Okay, I don't think I have any tape. So what I'm gonna do to fix this, well, I didn't know I was cutting my second page too. I'm just gonna tape the back side of this. That way it'll keep it together. And then on this page, I will do something like I did on this, where I added scrap paper on top of it. So it'll cover up that tape that I put down, okay? So it'll be easy to fix. You just kind of have to problem solve and figure out what works. I'm gonna go grab some tape real quick. Hang on. Okay. Let me see if that's not enough. So using tape, using whiteout, I may have been known to glue 2 pages together because I messed up one. It's totally fine, okay? Don't stress about it. Okay, there we go. And then I'll just add some paper on the back side of that to kind of cover it up and fix it. Okay, so when I use this little tab, there's a little peekaboo on this side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to draw in a tiny little monthly calendar that I'll be able to quickly see when I go to my August cover page. Let's see. So I've already kind of sketched out the dates. One thing that will trip you up is adding the numbers in incorrectly. So it takes, you kind of have to focus on that part when you are, when it comes down to it. All right. So typically what I do for these little mini ones is each little box gets its own number. And I'm just using the Tombow Mono Drawing Pen, the 01. This is the smallest that they have. I tend to use this a lot for bullet journaling because it just gives you some smaller lines. Pretty well. Okay. So there is my month. Okay. So now I kind of get that peekaboo date monthly box up there when I get to my cover page, which is kind of fun. Okay, so here's my next page. This is where my monthly setup is going to be. So I've got a little version up here, and then I'm going to break it down into bigger boxes on this side. Now, when I started out, I was kind of, I really liked straight lines. And to me, not having a straight line in my bullet journal was like blasphemy, and I just couldn't handle it. But now, as I've kind of tried to hurry the process along, I've kind of ditched the ruler a little bit. So whichever way you want to start out, let me see. So for June, this is all hand-drawn. So these are hand-drawn lines that, yes, they're bumpy. Yes, they're a little bit wavy, but I do kind of like that hand-drawn aspect of it where it's a little bit more handmade and it doesn't look perfect. There's this quote that says, if it was perfect, then it wouldn't look handmade. And I love that because it's so true, right? If you want straight lines, by all means, you were totally like do that, right? Let me see if I have an example of when so this one that I did all this with a ruler, right? So I did the outside box, I did the inside boxes all with rulers. Those little individual lines up at the top are hand drawn in, so they're a little bit less perfect, which I don't mind. But this is all like perfectly used with a ruler, which I liked back then. For the benefit of time, I'm going to, well, yeah, I'll just do hand-drawn boxes. So it's going to be the same format as up here, but my first is going to start right here. So now I'm using my 05 pen. This will give me larger lines, which I like for calendar boxes. And the great thing about bullet journals is that you have those dots to kind of guide you where those lines should be. So you kind of, it's a little bit easier to draw lines just by hand when you have those dots as a guide. So whether it's ruler or just by hand, whatever you want to do is up to you. Let me grab a piece of scratch paper. This line. Otherwise, I would have colored on that opposite page. So when you're making your monthly calendar boxes, you probably can't see very well, but I just do little tick marks that kind of outline each of those boxes. So for this, typically I do 5 by 5. Like these are all 5 by 5 with lines in between. I didn't have a lot of space because I did that cutout and I wanted this to remain empty on this side. So I'm gonna keep my boxes in between these lines right here. So each of my boxes for this layout is gonna be 4 by 4. Depending on how wide your bullet journal is, it may look different for you than it does for me. So just when you are planning out your boxes, do everything in pencil so you can kind of go back and change it. When I was planning this one out, originally I wanted to do my boxes sideways, but it didn't work out because I didn't have enough space going up and down with a 5 by 5 box. So I just decided to turn it and use 4 by 4 instead. So this is where it kind of gets creative. You can kind of pick which layout you like. You can make it how you like it. If you buy like a pre-bought planner, everything's kind of planned out already for you as far as what the monthly calendars look like, what the weekly calendars look like. So you kind of get a little bit more of the creative process when you come up with your own. And always remember that each month is going to look different depending on what day starts on what day of the month, right? So if my one started right here, I'd only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to worry about. August, this month is a little bit different because I have six rows that I have to try and fit in. To my spread. Okay. So I like to draw the outside lines first. That way when I come down here, I don't accidentally extend down below this line right here, which I have done in the past, and I used whiteout to fix it. So don't get discouraged if you make mistakes. It's just how you learn. Okay, so there's what my month looks like. I'm going to go back in with my 01 pen, and I'm going to write the dates again. Just in the upper corner. Maybe later I'll go back and add, let's see. Oh, not that one. Maybe I'll go back in later and add like either a circle right here or kind of some little border, maybe like this one. I kind of just spruced up a little bit. Okay. So over here, if you want to add stuff on this side, you totally can, just all the way down if you want to, or if you want, you can go through and roughly draw a sketch of where your page covers that opposite page. Okay. And then if you want to add something like notes on this side, and you want it to stay hidden when you cover this, just keep it within this section that you just outlined. Okay, so I'm gonna add like notes down here. You can put them down here. Let's draw out August up here. This is where you can choose like whatever font you want. It could be a serif or a sans serif or like a block letter. I'll go back to here and I'll kind of do like a floral element underneath it. So I'll do the cursive on top with like a little leaf embellishment kind of right here underneath. So for this one, I am going to use my soft tip pen just because if it's a little bit of a larger area, I'll use the larger one. You could even use dual brush pens if you wanted to because it's that lot of room up here. Here's where it gets tricky, is trying to write in this crease right here. So I suggest just kind of doing it a little slow, and then you can go back in and fill in whatever areas need to be filled in. So now we'll go in and fill kind of this side of the U. I got cut off just a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna go in with my 05 pen and I'm just gonna add a tiny little line shadow on the right. And what this looks like is right here. So you can make your shadow on any side, but it has to be consistent across the whole board. So it's gonna be like a drop right shadow. So I'm gonna go everywhere underneath and everywhere on the right. It's gonna have that line. Actually, I'm gonna use my 03 pen. So if you were to imagine that these letters were kind of 3D and you were looking at it kind of from the drop right side, put all your lines in on that side. Okay. Did I get them all? No, I'm right here. A. Okay. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to go in. I don't need this line anymore. I'm going to go in and add just a small leaf embellishment. Okay. I'm going to turn them into little branches at the end. Okay, so there's my title. I've got all my boxes, my small calendar. Okay, I'll do maybe some with my hard tip brush pen on this side. I'm going to do like goals, and on this side I'll do tasks. Remember to stay within that area so that it'll cover up when it's on that side. And then when you're done doing that, you can just erase that line so you don't have that just pencil mark there. Okay, are there any other questions? This is kind of my rough. I'll go back in and kind of just add details to this little wreath. Any other questions before we log off?
So one question that we got a little while ago was, where do you get your inspiration for spreads?
There's a lot of great bullet journal artists on Instagram. Pinterest has a lot of great ideas. Sometimes I'll see an idea that's like totally unrelated and I'll be like, oh, that would look really cool in a bullet journal. Or yeah, so check out other people's works and you can practice it. If you are kind of copying it or referencing it, make sure to give that artist credit if you do decide to post it. Yeah.
And where can people find you, Adrienne?
I am at Studio 80 Design on Instagram, 80 the number. And then studio80.design is my blog. That is a little, needs some love. I don't keep up on that very much. But and then I'm on Facebook too. So Studio 80 Design. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Adrienne, thank you so much. This was great. If anyone followed along and created your August spread and you want to share it up to your camera, we'd love to see it. You can also share your creations with hashtag Make It With Michaels. You can tag at Tombow USA and Michaels. Oh, this is awesome. You guys did so great.
I love seeing all your spreads. I saw a book spread. Oh, I see a fruit one. That's awesome, you guys. Aw. I hope you keep going. It's something that, you know, as you grow into it, you get more comfortable with it, and you can try more and more different kinds of spreads. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending our class, and thank you again, Adrienne. This was awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. I enjoyed it.